The Cricket Life Stories with me, Neel Khagram, and today we're joined by Tatenda Taibu. Tatenda, thank you for your time. How are you keeping during these
I'm
uncertain
all,
times?
yeah, I'm all right. I mean, it's quite a scary time, especially for someone that's in Europe. Um, you know, Obviously, keeping track of the number of people that are infected with this virus. But just to keep saying, I have a set program with my family that we follow religiously, and it keeps us quite busy and. You know, for us, it's a bit of a positive that we get to spend time together because obviously being an international cricketer at a young age got me traveling, quite early. And after I finished playing, I got into coaching and, continue to travel. So it'll be a time to spend, a significant number of months with my family.
So let's take it back to your childhood. Born in Harare, Zimbabwe, where did the interest in cricket first spark for you?
So Zimbabwe Cricket Union, which is ZC with Zimbabwe Cricket now, they were doing a program to spread cricket into the four corners of the country. So cricket was just a minority sport, played by only the rich. Now, so that program was to spread cricket into the high density suburbs. Now, I lived in Highfield in Harare, which is a high density suburb. And my primary school was one of the schools that was picked for that program. So it was introduced as a PE lesson. So anyone that that the coaches thought had natural ability would then be invited for the afternoon cricket session, which was from 2 to 5. So my coach, Stephen Mangongo, thought I had natural ability and I was enrolled, to start playing. And that's how I took on the sport.
And then did you play club cricket from then on?
So what then happened was, so that's in school. I was in grade 4 at that time. And then, so it was just schools cricket. So we would play against the other schools that were in that area. And then after that, we started playing against other Group A schools. Well, not other Group A schools, but we were Group B school, but we started playing against Group A schools because we were doing quite well. We beat all the other schools that were in this competition or that had cricket introduced. And then we started winning in that. So so during that time, before I got into high school, our coach then decided for us to join a club which is now called Takashinga. So at that time, it was an All Blacks club, and the only Blacks club that was available at the time. So we joined the club, but it was more schools cricket that we came through. And then when we went to high school, we then played more club cricket, and that's how we progressed.
And then you must have had immense success because, am I correct in saying in 1999, 2000, that period, you were asked to go on the West Indies tour as cover for Andy Flower, and then a few months later, you were also put on standby in England at the Trent Bridge Test match. This was all before, am I correct in saying you played actually a first-class game?
That is true. That's true. I progressed really quickly, to be honest. It was just one thing after another. And, it was really rapid. It was at a really rapid pace that even I could not comprehend.
You were 16 years old, am I correct in saying?
I was 16 years old. I was still in school. And yes, I had not played first-class cricket. I had done well in club cricket. But I think there was a very strong recommendation that came from Paul Strain. Now, Paul Strain was our interim coach, under 19 coach. He was recovering from an injury. So he then took us as the coach to Sri Lanka when we played the under 19 World Cup. Now, even for under 19, I was 2 years underage. So now he then wrote a very strong report about me. And, he basically said, if we're looking for a keeper that will take over from Andy, this is the boy.
And then am I correct in saying, when it came to Mashonaland, your first, when you made your first class debut, it was slightly delayed because you actually went to the wrong ground initially?
Yes.
Is there a little story there that you can tell us?
Yes. So it's quite a funny story. I mean, it's funny now. It wasn't funny then. So what happened was this. I came back from the under 19 tour, and then my coach wasn't really pleased with my performance there. I played well, but he thought and fair play to him. He thought I had more potential than I had shown. Now I only scored a couple of 50s. I didn't have any hundreds, and he thought I should have come back with a couple of hundreds. Now, so anyway, we had a meeting, and he was telling me how disappointed he was in me, and then at the end of the meeting, he says, "Well, did you receive a call? You are going to play your first game, your debut for Mashonaland." So I said, "No, I haven't been told anything." He said, "Don't worry. I'm sure when you get home, there is going to be word for you." Now, remember this around about the time the cell phones has just come into into the world, and so we depended on landline. So I thought, well, by the time I get home, there's going to be a message for me. So I get home, and I asked everyone, and well, there hadn't been a message, and the game was the following day. And now I hadn't practiced with the team. I didn't know anything. I'm just a 16-year-old boy. So now I thought, well, if I don't have anything, now this is now about 8 o'clock at night. Now you've got the directory. You can only get the ZC number, and which is obviously landline as well. But 8 o'clock the offices are closed. So the only thing that I could do was to either go to the offices early in the morning, or to wait to call at 8 o'clock. So I thought, well, if the game is at Sports Club, at Harare Sports Club, the offices were at Harare Sports Club. If I go there, then I would have half a chance. So I made sure that by 8 o'clock, I would be at the offices. Now, this is to ask where the game is, because no one had made contact. So now the game, so by 8 o'clock now, obviously having played a few games, club cricket, you name it, I knew, you obviously know that by 8 o'clock, teams would have started warming up. So I saw that there was no action at Harare Sports Club. So there was only one other ground where the game could be. And that was at CFX Academy in Newlands. So I decided not to waste time to wait at Harare Sports Club until the offices were open, but just to quickly rush to Newlands where the game was. So I then had to ask my sister to come and pick me up, to take me to the ground. So obviously, time is moving, and when I get there, the toss was about to be done. So that's what what transpired.
That's what happened. So then you actually progressed at the age of 17. Am I correct in saying, to be picked in the Test and ODI series against West Indies at home?
Mm-hmm.
Did you feel ready at that age? A young man, played a handful of first-class games. What's going on in your mind? Everything's just come so quickly.
I didn't have those questions in my mind. I didn't have those, am I ready questions in my mind, because what was ready for me, things were just happening too quickly. I didn't think that I was going to be able to make the under 19 team 2 years underage. I didn't know that by the end of the tour, I would be a regular in the team. I didn't know that I would be selected and join the national team, to join West Indies. So I didn't know what ready was. I just saw, things happening fast, and I didn't understand what was going on, and I just accepted what was going on, and that's it. And growing up in a place where you don't have a lot of history about the sport, where you don't have access to know a lot more things about the sport, you don't know what's normal and what's abnormal. So you just go with the flow. So I just, to me, it was, okay, I've been selected. Andy Flower thinks I'm good enough, because I heard him say, something, and I used to practice with him, and he used to say a lot of positives about me. And he was my hero, and I thought, well, he thinks I'm good enough, so I am good enough. That's all that I knew. So, and the funny thing about that test match, that on my debut, there was an injury. Stuart Kalau broke his finger. And then the coach came in, he says, we've got a so we need a number 3 batsman in the second innings. And he said, any thoughts? And what did I do? I raised my hand. I said, I can bet number 3. So there was nothing. I didn't fear anything. I just, I didn't think much about it. I just saw it as an opportunity, because I thought myself as a batsman who can keep. So I thought, well, there is an opportunity. I can, if I score runs here, I'll continue being number 3 for the national team.
And then the following year, you actually then represented Zimbabwe in the Under-19 World Cup. You were named player of the tournament. Zimbabwe win the plate competition. So you didn't make it through the group stages, but you won the plate competition. You're player of the tournament. Am I correct in saying you actually performed all 4 disciplines, i.e. you kept and you bowled as well?
Yes. Yeah.
Did you, as you said before, you made your debut in the first team, the proper test team, as a batsman, wicketkeeper. Did you have aspirations? Did you think you could also make it as a bowler?
I think I could have. If wicket keeping is a specialist position, and I had to make my mind up, as to what I wanted to do. But you see, even to date, I learn by watching. You could introduce a sport that I haven't played, that I haven't seen. You could introduce it to me right now, and I would watch it enough. And then when I then check the court or whatever, arena where it's played, you would be surprised I would have at least the basics. So I learn quickly. I learn by watching, and obviously, spending a lot of time keeping, I would know what the bowlers are supposed to do. I would be able to pick up the weaknesses of the batsmen, and I, obviously, being a captain, I used to go for the bowlers meetings, and even have an input to say, we should do this to this guy, we should do this. Mind you, I used to bowl as well. I used to bowl off spin, and even at club cricket, how I came on to bowl in the Under-19 World Cup was that my first coach, Stephen Mangongo, was also the club coach, and I had won games for the club bowling at times. So I would keep for the first 15 overs, take off my pads, bowl my 10 overs straight, and then at 35 overs, I would come back and keep again for the rest of the game. And I had sometimes, I think my best figures at club cricket was 6 for 30 or something like that. And that I used to just bowl in the middle period. So he knew that there was, obviously that aspect of my game that people didn't know about, that the main coach didn't know about. Our main coach was Steve Rhodes, from who used to, play for Worcester. So he said, look, if you're looking for someone who can give you 10 overs and guaranteed 10 overs in every game, is your wicket keeper. And he says, how do you think he can do it? He says, well, just call him. Then I was called into a meeting, and he said, well, Mangongo tells me this. I said, yeah, I can do it. He says, are you sure? You're captain, you're batting number 3, you want to keep, and you can bowl as well. Won't it be too heavy for you? I said, look, I love my cricket, and sometimes I know how to win, and I can do it, and it can work. And because of that, I was virtually getting man of the match, many times. And if not, I was voted second or third, which accumulated the points for me to end up being player of the tournament.
Did also then captaincy come naturally to you as well?
I am told so. It's something that I would not, be able to say, yeah, it comes naturally. I am told that when I speak in front of a group of people or in front of, a team, I am told that I speak with so much conviction and authority that people seem to want to follow that the path that I would have said. I'm also told that I believe in, or I lead by example. I know I would not be the last one to be on the fitness on the team fitness line. I would not be the last one to pad up when it's time to start practicing. I would not be the last one. I'll be the last one to leave practice. I would be one of the first that would be there doing my own practice. And also when I was national team captain, I used to have a net at my house. And when a player would be struggling, I used to, bring him to my house and then, work on it. And these are things that I would do away from the public side. So I'm told that I would just earn respect from players by the little gestures that I would do on individuals. And thereby, when I spoke, everyone, thought that there was, there was a connection between me and the player. So those are the main things that people talk about. So I'm made to believe that it comes naturally, yes.
And then the following year, 2003, South Africa, Zimbabwe, and Kenya co-host the World Cup. Now, was that a proud moment for you? In effect, a home World Cup being picked for that. I know you said everything's come to you very quickly, but that moment, a home World Cup, proud moment.
Oh yes. For me, it was not. It was now away from personal gratification. Now it was about the growth of the sport in the country. Now, for me, it was a moment to show the country that this sport could actually become the number one sport in the country ahead of football. And I knew that I was one of the faces for that, because look, it's a country where the minority, which mostly were white, would be playing the sport. And then now you've got a young black player who is doing well at the international level. And should he do well at this big stage, the World Cup, how many other kids would want to be Tatenda? So that's how I looked at that World Cup. And I reckon that's how cricket started being popular, more popular in Zimbabwe, at least among the black majority. So, and I reckon had we continued on that road for 5 to 10 years, cricket would be the number one sport in Zimbabwe.
And then that tournament, Zimbabwe cricket, is also very well documented about Andy Flower and Henry Olonga, the black armband protests in their words of death to democracy in Zimbabwe. Were the players and yourself, did you know that that protest was going to take place before that first game against Namibia?
Some of the players knew that it was going to take place. Some of the older players. Now, I was quite young. I was just 20. So I didn't know. I knew the day before. Other players knew a week or 3-4 days before. I only knew the day before, and this is how it happened. And Andy Flower and I used to be interviewed together most of the times. So as usual, we were taken onto the pitch at Harare Sports Club, close to the pitch, and they would ask Andy Flower a question, he would answer, and then they would ask me, and we continued like that. And then would answer, similarly. And until this question came, and that was, Andy, do you think England should travel and come to Zimbabwe to play against Zimbabwe? And then Andy said, so we were sitting back to back. Then Andy said, no, I don't think England should come. So I turned my head like this to think, Andy, what are you on about? So anyway, the question then came to me. And I said, I think they should come because, I'm a professional cricketer. If I'm not playing cricket, I don't get paid. So, if there's no cricket for me, then how am I going to be earning? So that was my answer. And then on the way back, I said, Andy, what was that all about? I said, we are professional cricketers. If we're not playing cricket, then really we should be looking for something else to do. So England not coming here doesn't do good for us. So then Andy said, you know what, Tiba, there are a lot of things that's going to be happening. He said, you've been playing well. You continue to improve at such a rate. You are going to become a leader very soon. My advice to you is keep concentrating on that. You've got a long career ahead of you, and make sure that you keep progressing. So then he said, you will hear plenty of things are going to happen starting from tomorrow. Just pay no attention to it. So I respected Andy. Not only respected, I still respect him to date. So because he told me that, I didn't pick my nose into what it was. I just let it go.
And then on the playing field itself, obviously you mentioned England didn't then travel to Zimbabwe, so you get the points from that. There was a rained off match against Pakistan, so you make it through to the Super Sixes. Did it disappoint you that you didn't claim a scalp against any of the other major test playing nations? You also lost Kenya. So on the field, from a cricketing perspective, was it a disappointing tournament?
As an individual, I played well. And, we, as a team, we started off really well. And then up until, when I say we started off really well, I'm not talking about just ultimate results. I'm talking about the preparation leading to the tournament and then the team morale that was there, during the tournament. For me, that was, some of the best unified team that I've been part of. So, and I felt that even had we played all the games, I reckon we had a chance because normally you just need to, to win one of the bigger teams during that time. I know that it's changed now, but during that time, you only needed to win one of the other bigger teams. So, take for example, we lost to India, but we played really well against India. We actually contained them. Had we batted well, we would have won that game. Now, you take Australia. We lost in the 48th over. We batted really well in Blawayo, and we lost in the 48th over. And you take New Zealand in the, you take New Zealand in the in the second round in the Super Six.
Super Six, yeah.
We scored, I think, 260 something, if I'm not mistaken, and which was a good score on a slow deck in Bloemfontein. And Nathan Astle then took that away from us. Now, that was the end. New Zealand was the end of that little patch that I'm talking about, the team spirit and unified group, because we started having some problems in the team. Starting off on the very morning that we played Kenya. So there was a selection between, the selectors were having it tough in finding who to select between Dion Ibrahim and Sean Evan. Now, and I feel it was not a matter of ability that was used there or current form. It was a matter of race. Sean Evan had helped us. When we played New Zealand, I played well, History played well, and Sean Evan played well. But then the selectors then dropped Dion Ibrahim. Sorry, they dropped Sean Evan to bring in Dion Ibrahim. Now, Dion Ibrahim was a good player, but Dion Ibrahim was going through a little patch. And personally, I think Sean Evan should have continued to play. But the selectors were pushing for Dion Ibrahim as a player of color to be in the team. So the other players didn't take that lightly. So there was a little bit, so that squabble, nothing was said, but you can tell that, something is going on. And, in that morning, we used to have two vans, and we used to go, we used to wait for everyone until until everyone is there, then we leave for the ground. But when I got to the bus, the other bus had gone already. So things like that, we had set ourselves rules that, we would do everything as a team. So anyway, we lost that game, and then we played Sri Lanka and we knocked out. But on the field, I experienced some of the best unified times that I've experienced playing for Zimbabwe.
And then a few months later, you tour England. You become the vice captain. Andy Flower and Henry Olonga no longer part of the team. He streaked the skipper. Now that two-match test series was best known for Jimmy Anderson's debut. Do you recognise the talent in him there? I know he got a 5-foot on debut, but did you see the greatness in him back then?
I remember facing him. I remember him swinging the ball both ways, but predominantly away. Then when he tried, he just tried one, swinging one back to me, which it hit me on the pads, but it moved a long way. And I was surprised that he didn't try that again, because it really moved a long way. And his away swingers were going a big, we're bending bananas. So that's what I remember about him. I just remember that, this guy could swing the ball both ways a fair bit.
And then in 2004, you become the captain of Zimbabwe, age 20. You must have felt pressure.
That's what people say. But like it was with my life, I just, it was normally abnormal. I was concentrating so much on progressing as a cricketer to even think about captaincy. And I always thought that I am a batsman before I'm a captain. It doesn't matter how good a captain I can be in field positions and things like that. If I don't score 100 as a batsman, I'm not doing the team justice. If I don't take every catch that comes my way, I'm not doing my team any justice. So I always looked at it that I'm a batsman before I'm a captain. I'm a wicket keeper before I'm a captain. So I concentrate when I'm batting, I concentrate on the ball that I'm facing before I think about anything else. So for me, captaincy was at the back seat of my batting or my keeping. So I would concentrate to watch the ball that Heatstreak was bowling or Raymond Price was bowling. Once I've dealt with that, once I've got that in the hand or that ball has gone to the covers, then I can think about field placing. So I always looked at the as the captaincy, from a backseat kind of thing. So yeah. So to answer the question, I didn't feel any pressure because I kept my focus on progressing as a batsman and a wicketkeeper.
Did you then feel there were external issues that comes with being the leader? Then on the field, you're saying you're very much concentrating on the batsmanship skill set side of things, but off the field, I know in 2005 you kind of led your own protest about financial issues, inequity in Zimbabwean cricket. So externally, away from the field, did you feel that was your responsibility as the captain?
Yes, I felt that. So to begin with, now this is I'd entered into a world that I didn't know of. Now this is now the world of meetings outside of the cricket field or outside of the cricket circle, your cricket teammates or your cricket management team. Now you are getting into meetings with board members, you are getting into meetings with sports ministers and such like. And now that's an area that I was not accustomed to. So to begin with, you start to learn about how that goes. So a lot of listening and less talking. So now once I started to learn about that side of cricket that I didn't know of, I got really disappointed because I had a connection with almost each player, or really virtually each player that I shared the field with. And I pretty much knew where each player lived. And I made it a point that I would visit and make them visit my place so that it's not like we just only know each other on the field. I wanted to know how they grew up, how they were living. I wanted to know what it means for me or for him when I ask for the best 2 overs at 4:30. When I'm asking a young fast bowler who could get injured by giving me his best 2 overs at 4:30. So I now knew that on the playing field, all the players would give me whatever I asked. They would give me my 100%. I was even afraid of asking certain bowlers to bowl at certain times because I knew they would try to do it for me and they would give 100% for me. But now, come the flip side. Now I know this player has got a father who's mentally disturbed and has got a mother who has to go to our neighboring countries to buy some clothes, for resale so that they support this player who is playing international cricket but cannot support his father and mother. That won't make sense to anyone with, with a heart. So it didn't make sense to me, because I know what an international cricketer should be getting.
And then you,
So
yeah, no, sorry,
yes,
continue. No, continue. Sorry.
yes. So now, so I'm just giving a few examples of players that, yes, they're just coming into the national team, but they should be getting something that's respectable. And and I know that these players could get injured. Once they get injured, there was hardly any record where a player would get injured, have a major injury, and then Zimbabwe cricket would continue to look after this player up until they come back, from that injury. So I knew that there was a risk that when such a player gets injured under my care as a captain, then they might not come back. So they had to be, proper medical facilities in place. Players have got to be on medical aid. So those are the things that I started raising my voice to.
And then
Because,
did ministers listen? I know you've documented a lot
yes.
in your autobiography, Keeper of
Mm,
Faith.
mm.
But maybe you can just recount one of the stories about how you went to one of the ministers and you just got chopped basically an envelope and it contained some
Yeah.
explicit grotesque
So
imagery. But maybe you can just say that story.
yeah. So what happened was that I got called for this meeting, and so it was actually the minister was in charge of the Minister of Information and Technology. So I went in, and when we started chatting, I could tell, probably within 5 minutes, I could tell that which side he was on. And I knew that it wasn't my side. So I knew that I was there for him to convince me to change sides or to see things his way. Now, I didn't need anyone to tell me another point of view. I knew exactly what was going on. I had been in the meetings. So I had two choices. One, to just keep quiet and just listen to him and pretend like I was agreeing and then just go back and live normally. Or to just tell him the other side that he might not know, but that meant I'm going against him. Now, I've never thought of myself to be a coward, because I think that a coward dies 1,000 deaths before he's actually dead. So I decided not to be a coward. So I told him what I felt, where I felt Zimbabwe was going with what was happening, Zimbabwe cricket, that is. And as I didn't expect what came after that, but we went outside. He was going to travel with the president that evening, so he wanted to sort out his passport and things. So we went. He took some photos outside. So we're chatting, and when we came back into his office, he just went into his drawer, pulled up an envelope, and threw it on the table. He didn't say anything. He just went. Then he went onto the window. He went, just against the window, and he started looking outside. Now, my mind raced, and I thought, I've seen things like this on TV, in movies, but these things actually do happen in real life, But now I didn't know what was in the envelope. So then I picked up, then I opened the envelope and I started having, a look at it was pictures, photo pictures. And it was pictures of dead people. Now I only looked at about 5 to 7 pictures, and some of them were quite disgusting for me to even continue to look. But also my mind was racing, thinking, what does this mean? So I pretended like I was having a look at the rest of them. And then I then just put them back in an envelope, and I said, thank you. The time, luckily, I don't know what I was going to say after that, because luckily the time was up, because I had already told him that I had a meeting that was coming up, and another meeting that was coming up, and I had to rush off for that other meeting. So I said, thank you very much for your time. I'm sure we'll see each other soon. And then that was it.
Yes, and you've also stated in your book, activists from Mugabe's PF, the activists, you're also receiving calls threatening to beat you up as well. Did you fear for your life during that period?
Oh yeah, that was probably the scariest time of my life. No doubt the scariest time of my wife's life. So this is just one incident that I just talked about, but we were virtually getting calls on a daily basis. Not only cell phone, not only my cell phone, not only Loveness's cell phone, on the landline as well. We had to tell our gardener not to open the gate. When we were not there, or even when we were there and we didn't open the gate, we asked him not to even go to the gate. If someone didn't call us that they were coming to visit us, they would just get to the gate and turn back. So we were getting calls. We were getting cars that would just be parked at our house. We would have cars following us. Up until we thought, what, this is really, we're struggling to sleep now. Yes, a little later, we then got security from the governor, Dr. Gono. But even with that, we ended up having to, to leave the house. We stayed in a hotel for a bit when my older boy, TJ, was 10 days old at the time. And that's what then led us to leave the country.
Yeah, so then you retire from international cricket in November 2005. You take exile, am I correct in saying, in several countries? Bangladesh, Libya, South Africa? Am I correct in saying?
So it was Bangladesh, then England. Then when I was in England, I started making plans to go to South Africa. And then the person that I was speaking to was Gerald Majola. He was the CEO for Cricket South Africa. He then told the Zimbabwe cricket CEO, and because he had spilled the beans, then I had to go another direction. So I decided to go to Namibia.
Was it ever your plan to sit out that 4-year qualification period and perhaps qualify playing cricket for another nation?
Yes, that was the plan. That was what I discussed with Majola, for several weeks, and we had the whole plan set up. And and I said, look, I don't mind, being away from international cricket for 4 years. I still feel I've got a lot to offer to international cricket, so I wanted to do that, and that's what he spilled to Ozias Bute, who was our CEO.
And then you returned to play for Zimbabwe in 2007.
Mm.
Was it just a case of, as you said, you felt as if you have so much more to give? Was that the main reason behind it, or did you feel that you could act as the key figure to change things still going forward?
No. I think in terms of changing things, I knew that it was going to be hard to get things to be changed, just considering what I had gone through. And the players were so scared that there was never going to be any change. So it wasn't on those bases. I wasn't thinking of coming back. I had made up my mind that I was almost just about to buy one of the academies in Namibia. And then I get a call from a gentleman who was now the main sponsor for Zimbabwe cricket. He used to be the main sponsor for his company was Croco Motors. So he says, Tatenda, I've just arrived at the airport. I'm coming to see you. So do you have some time? So I said, yeah, we can do lunch. So he said, well, that's fine. So we went for lunch, and we spoke about life and things. And then he says, look, without wasting time, I've come here to try and convince you to come back and play. You are winning games for Namibia. We are losing games, and you are one of the stars of the country. Why don't you come back? I'm investing a lot of money into Zimbabwe cricket, and I know you love your cricket. I know you can do a lot for the country. So I'm trying to convince you to come back and play. I said, no, that's not going to happen. And he says, okay, look, I know there's this that happened, but I'm also connected. What if I leave you with a question, and then I'll come back again next Saturday? So he says, what would you want to see for you to come back? So he said, I'll be back again. He says, I'll fly and I'll come back again next Saturday. So in the meantime, here's my number. Let's communicate. So I said, okay. So I then called him. I said, if you come, I said the only way is if I write my own contract. So he says, no, I've never heard anything like that. I said, I want a contract where I am not attached to Zimbabwe cricket. I can play, but I'm not really attached to Zimbabwe cricket. So he says, look, I'll need to think about it and see if it can be done. Then he obviously, he obviously called whatever lawyers and whatever the people that he got legal advice from. And then he says, look, what if I come with a contract and then I ask you to amend it? Would that work? I said it would work perfectly fine for me. So that's how I ended up, going back to play. So we did a contract. I was under Zimbabwe cricket, but not really under Zimbabwe cricket. That's why you see I never then captained after that, because I wasn't really part of Zimbabwe cricket. I hardly did any interviews, during that period. I would just play, and that's the period that I played some of my best cricket.
Yeah, so that first ODI series back, he scored a century against that formidable South African attack containing Pollock, Ntini, Monimoko, Philander. Would you rate that as your best innings in your career?
Yes, that's definitely one of my best. Yeah, I just had, there was a little bit of, can say a little bit of good beef between me and South Africa. So I always was able to pull up another gear whenever I played South Africa.
And then obviously during this period, Zimbabwe weren't playing Test cricket up until 2011. I know the back end of your career, you did play Test cricket, but is there still part of you that feels that the peak years of your career were lost?
Oh yes, definitely. My peak years of my career, I retired at 29. Normally that's when they say you're reaching your peak. And when we were away from Test cricket, I was world number 27. I remember that, not that I would follow the ratings, but I remember that because there was a big article that I had overtaken Ganguly in a series when we were playing India. In Zimbabwe in 2005. So, and I had aspirations to be one of the best at some stage. So definitely yes, a lot of cricket was taken away from me.
So your last Test match and ODI appearance came against New Zealand in 2012. You said retirement came at 29. What were your plans moving forward from there?
So, look, during that period, I think that last year of my cricket from 2000 and, around about with the time we played the World Cup, the 2011 World Cup to the time I retired, cricket was not priority for me. Now, all my other years, cricket was priority. Everything had to take a back seat. But I'd started asking myself life questions, because I think I'd gone through a lot to get me to ask those questions. Obviously, also a lot of disappointments, a lot of heartaches and things like that. So I started to ask myself what all this was all about. We read about the greats. I don't think I've only ever watched one video of Don Broadman. But we read about him and we hear about him and we hear about Viv Richards, we hear about Richie Richardson, we hear about Kapil Dev, Ravi Shastri, and you think you name it, Ian Botham and them, and you think they're just names now, and so I used to ask my wife, I would say, Loveness, what then? I say another game will come, that game will go, another game will start practicing for another game. And I said, there will come a time when my body can't do this no more. I said, then what? I said, trophies will soon be forgotten. I like to be true to myself. These questions are real and true. And obviously, because we are human, we try to hide away from such reality. But it is true. I said, the trophies will soon be thrown away. I said, the name will soon be forgotten. I said, then what? I said, one day I will grow old, and one day I will have to go 6 feet under. I said, I would rather face that truth now than to wonder when I'm old. Like right now, I've got a lot of things that, that's occupying me. Practice, game after game. Excuse me. I said, but there will come a time when I don't have those things occupying me. And I said, then I will have to answer those questions. I said, I would rather answer them now. So when it came to what then after I die, then I said, you know what? This becomes a spiritual issue. That's why there is religion everywhere. Because it's because of that and of that question. Where do we come from? What are we doing here on earth, and where are we going? That's where I just put it. For me, that's what it was for me. So I said, I've got to find answers to that. So because that became now the center of my life, finding that answer, and it is a spiritual answer, cricket became secondary. So I started, whereas I would practice hour after hour, grooving my game, I started giving more time to prayer. So I knew that my cricket was going to be, my cricket was going to get a dent because of that. So I thought, well, instead of going on like this, I think it's better I just call it quits, and then I concentrate. Because such is my character also, that when I've got my eyes set on something, I go 100%. So I went to the managing director and I told him that this is the decision. This is what I've got on my mind. Then he says to me, but Tatenda, how do we tell the world? We can't explain this to the world. And I said, whatever you put in the paper, it's up to you. But this is the truth. So he then went on and he told the world that I have become a preacher. Now that would make sense to people. So that's what really transpired for me to, to retire at 29.
And then you've now live in Liverpool, United Kingdom. What year did you move over? I know you also play some club cricket up there as well, so you've still got your hand in the game.
Mm.
I read that you've taken you bowling as well now. You did a hat trick last year in a game. How are you enjoying it?
So I went away for 4 years. No, I went totally away from cricket for 4 years. So I actually even moved cities, bought a new property in Blawayo, and moved away whilst I was on my search. Once I got my answers, I decided, Zimbabwe started, as a country, started going through a very bad economic situation. So my wife and I decided to move to the UK. Then, when we moved to the UK, or just before we moved, I said, look, now I've got my answers. I could play some cricket. I could play some cricket again. So, so I looked for a club. We got to the UK, to Liverpool, started playing some cricket again. Just from not even holding a cricket bat. I only practiced once, and then started playing club cricket. So I did, and then I started, getting, more into it. Now, when the world then heard that I'd started playing again, that made news worldwide. Zimbabwe Cricket then made contact with me to say, look, we need help. We're struggling to find good selectors. We're struggling to find good personnel that can help with the further development of the game. So we chatted for about a year, up until I then obliged.
And then you also run an academy in Zimbabwe now as well, isn't it? And
well, I don't run an academy. I have constructed an academy.
right.
But the situation in Zimbabwe is very bad at the moment, that I opened it, then I decided to close it after a month, because there was no way of running it, because there's 94% unemployment. So who's going to be getting money to to enroll? So if I am going to continue with it, I have to do it in such a way that it's a charity, and not run it as an academy. So I just decided to close it and make sure that either I'll wait for things to normalize back in Zimbabwe, or I have to devise a new way of doing it, which does not involve people paying for the services.
And then you also did a bit of coaching with Heath Street prior to the qualification period for the 2019 World Cup. How did you enjoy that stint? And I know it was a kind of Zimbabwe and West Indies were the two main kind of playing nations involved. And am I correct in saying, again, there's kind of old financial issues still there? Wasn't there a little incident that prior to the kind of the crunch game, half the players didn't turn up due to not being paid? And again, it must have been a huge disappointment for you.
No, well, it wasn't a disappointment for me, to be honest, because all these things that have been happening have continued to happen throughout. Virtually nothing has really changed. Which now, that is the disappointment that is, that's there. Not that the players, this is what happened the day before. Those things have been happening continuous up until now. So I was part of the team, not as a coach. I was helping, but I was a selector. Now, and then again, things took another twist. Some board members asked me not to select. And Heath Street had gotten used to having me around and helping. and we worked together when we played. So he always wanted to see me close by, because we always used to exchange notes and exchange ways of doing things, and I would always give him another voice. So he just asked me. Now, I wasn't selecting during that period, but he just asked me to come. He said, look, the boys would feel more confident if you're around, if they know that you're around. They don't have to know that you're not selecting. So the players didn't know that I wasn't selecting. But Streaky thought it would help the team if I was around.
And then you also had a stint playing a bit of first-class cricket in Sri Lanka.
Mm.
How did that go for you? And do you have aspirations to play a little bit more around the world moving forward?
No. I didn't have, I didn't and don't have aspirations for that. I did it. It's quite a funny story. I was speaking to you see, when I went away from cricket, I went totally away from cricket. My older boy, TJ, didn't know a lot of my cricket because I went totally away from cricket. Now, when we came over here, I mean, yes, you would know that Dad used to know that Dad played cricket, and Dad played cricket, played for Zimbabwe, but it didn't have meaning, because it's not something that we talked about. It's not something. But then when he started hearing his friends talking about it at school, he then got interested and started asking me questions and things. And that's how he got hooked up playing. Now, as a father, I think I did badly there. I think I should have introduced the sport to him. The same way that I've now done with the younger boy, Kesha. Because it was that interest that he got from his friends and people at school and people that he played against at clubs that got him to start asking a lot more questions about me. Now, so it was him that actually drew cricket information from me. Now, so I went to pick him up from school. Then he said, Dad, today we didn't. So I said, how was school? Then he answered, I said, how was cricket practice? He says, well, it was raining, so we watched some highlights. So I said, oh, okay. I said, who did you watch? He said, oh, it was this tall left-handed batsman. He was hitting big six. I said, Chris Gale? He said, yeah, that's his name. Oh, you know him. So it was quite funny that. Then I said, yeah, he's a friend of mine. And he said, no, Dad. I said, okay. So I got the phone. So I went to my conversations with Chris. So I said, is that him? And he said, yeah. And I said, look, TJ, I should have introduced cricket to you. So I explained what was going on. Then I said, but your dad can still play this sport. Then he said, really? I said, look, I will play some first-class cricket just to show you that I can play this game, and I'll start coaching you and playing a bit more with you. So I went to Sri Lanka. It was just really, I was doing it for my boy, to be honest.
And then moving forward, how do you see the game in Zimbabwe moving forward? Is there talent coming through? Are there opportunities, or does there still a lot have to be done outside of the playing field for that to come through?
I have not come across any cricketer that has gone to Zimbabwe and not said that there is talent in Zimbabwe. Not one. There is vast talent in Zimbabwe, but that talent is never nurtured, simply because of a management team that doesn't know how to run sport in the country, or how to run cricket in the country. Now, people would say, I know people can say, oh, you know what? These these workers or this management team or people that work for Zimbabwe cricket that are not good at the job must leave so that they give an opportunity to people who can run the sport. That's what any normal person would be saying. Now, we are talking of a country that has got 94% unemployment. Even if one knows that they're not good at the job, they're not going to leave the job. If they leave the job, how do they live? So that is the true fact that's there. So, I mean, as a parent, I want to, well, as a cricketer, as a cricket lover, and as someone who wants to see the continuity of Zimbabwe cricket, I would agree and say, oh, you know what? People who can run the sport should run the sport. But let me take that hat off and put on a hat as a father and say, as a parent, I have to provide food on the table for my family. My kids I've got to pay school for my kids to go to school, right? I've got to provide a shelter for my kids. Now, if I'm wearing that, if I'm not being selfish and I wear that hat, I would think differently and say, you know what? As a parent, someone will be saying, I'll do whatever it takes so that I give something for my kids. So, yes, it's a mess. To be honest with you, it is a mess. But I understand how it is. It is like that. Somehow, maybe something will just happen somewhere along the lines that things will normalize, and then, there is enough jobs in the country, the economy is going well, and that, that's how the cricket in the country, I think that's how it can survive. As it stands, I can tell you that the people, most of the workers are incompetent. So yes, the talent is there, but there is no structures in place to nurture that talent. So what you will see, and you continue to see, is players that will do well, Zimbabweans that will continue to do well in other countries. You will hear of Gary Balance, you will hear of De Grandom, you will hear of the Karen brothers, you will hear of this boy that was just named Wisdom, school player of the year. He's a Zimbabwean here over in the UK. So you'll just hear Zimbabweans that are planted all over, unless things change within the organization.
Tatenda, thank you very much for your time today. What a story, and thank you very much again for being so open.
Thank you.
So Neel Khagram, Cricket Last Stories, Tatenda Taibu. Thank you.